starting the day here in Bomarton, Texas, and I'm on the steps of the Catholic Church that was built in the 1930s. But before we check that out, I'll tell you a little bit about Bomarton. It was started along the railroad here in the early 1900s, and it grew to a very prosperous agricultural farming community, and it had as many as about 600 people living here. And then as businesses kind of closed here and moved to neighboring towns, people started moving away from Bomarton, and it has dwindled to become a ghost town today. And what's left, pretty much all that's left is a cemetery, which is a little bit south of the town, an elevator on the north side of the road, and then this beautiful church, like I said, that was built in the 1930s. Inside, it has it says no trespassing if you're here to cause trouble, but if you're here to worship or if you're here to admire the beauty, then I think they're welcoming visitors. So it does have a sign in there that says that. We're going to go inside. I'm going to show you around inside the church, which is it's pretty cool that this is here to see. But obviously, if you are coming to visit Bomarton and want to look at the church, make sure you are very respectful. Doans, or also known as Doans Crossing, is a very important historical place. This is where millions of cattle were driven through and crossed the Red River at this point. And this was right before they got to Oklahoma, which in the 1870s, 1880s was also known as Indian Territory. So this was the last stop, and it would be the last place to get supplies for those cowboys who were driving those cattle on what was the Great Western Trail, which would take cattle from down southern Texas up, and they would kind of target through Dodge City, Kansas, and so very historic place. There's a store called Doans Store that's here, an adobe structure that's still standing from the 1870s, 1880s era. And other than that, there's some historical monuments that tell the story of what about the cattle drives and about this area, and then pretty wide open. The demise of Doans Crossing happened because the railroad was built a little bit south of here, and when that happened, the cattle would be on the railroad. No need for them to go through the cattle drive anymore. These days, Doans Crossing is pretty quiet. And I've heard, though, that they do have a yearly picnic that attracts a lot of people. I'm on I guess you'd call like a makeshift stage, and this is a giant tumbleweed behind me. So I don't know if it tumbled over here or if it was part of the decor, but very beautiful area and pretty cool historic spot. And this is a fantastic ghost town to visit. They have done a great job of keeping some of the original buildings here, and they tell about the history, and it's very, very cool place to visit. It was originally inhabited by Comanche and Kiowa Indians, and it was named Medicine Mound because there are 4 large mounds a little bit to the west of town. And so it was settled here, and the Indians would go there for spiritual things and go there for healing and things like that. And so then in the about 1870s, the Native Americans were driven out of this land and to Oklahoma, when that became known as Indian Territory. And so this land started to become settled by white people, and it retained the name of Medicine Mound. Actually, the original town was a couple miles south of here, and then they built a railroad here, and they moved up here in the early 1900s. And then it started a community. About 500 people were here, and so it was a pretty prospering community. They had 2 banks and schools, and they had 20 some businesses here, and so it was definitely thriving. And then the Depression in the 1920s, the kind of consolidation of agriculture, and then fires were a problem here, and a lot of the town was burnt down, and then instead of rebuilding, some people just chose to leave. And now what's left is, like I mentioned, it's this very cool kind of couple structures, the general store here. I'm not sure what the other building is over there. I'm assuming it's a gas station. Now that I see there's some old gas pumps in front of it, makes sense. And then there's another building across the way that's kind of torn down, but it's on private property. But maybe we'll get a good shot of it with a drone. But Medicine Mound, Texas, very, very cool place to check out.